Dynasty disaster. Brock Bowers lands in the absolute worst situation for his dynasty value. We'll discuss that and more on this episode of the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Here are your hosts, Marcus Mosher and Kate Madjuk.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That is linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Kate Madjuk. You can follow her on Twitter at Kate Madjuk. On today's show, we are breaking down round one of the NFL draft. And for the most part, it was a disaster for dynasty owners. And let's start with Brock Bowers, who went to the Raiders at pick 13. I think from a real life perspective, it's a good pick. He was clearly the best player on the board. The Raiders have had issues with not drafting the best players available. But from a dynasty perspective, Kate, this is one of the worst cases scenarios.
Yeah, I think there are like multiple reasons that this is just kind of a bad situation, right? Coming into this draft, Marcus, you had Brock Bowers as your top rated tight end in Dynasty. He was your tight end one.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's going to a place where Michael Mayer, he's been one of our favorite offseason targets here for Dynasty managers to consider because
Not anymore.
Not anymore, but like because the talent as a receiver, because again, maybe unlike a Sam Laporta, he was more of a kind of, more of the traditional hybrid blocking, more of the traditional inline tight end as opposed to a really big slot receiver, right? So I was like, okay, we didn't have the year one breakout, but kind of understandable, a little more nuance with, more of the straight up inline tight ends. And then you have Brock Bowers, who I guess here's the question for me, and this is maybe going to form how we look at this. If Brock Bowers did not have the tight end designation next to his name, if he were a big wide receiver, I still think he would have been the wide receiver 4 in this class.
I would 100% agree. Yes.
And if the Raiders were taking wide receiver Brock Bowers at 13, as opposed to tight end Brock Bowers, does that make you feel any better?
No.
It does make me feel a little bit better because I have to say there's no freaking way that they're really going to be rolling with like a Gardner Minshew at quarterback long term. I have to imagine that this is a long play.
It is a long play. And again, Tom Telesco is the new GM, is known for just drafting the best players available and figuring it out later. So I understand that. But from a dynasty perspective, not only do you go to a team that traded up for a tight end last year and really likes Michael Mayer, he's only 22 years old. He's going to be on the field a lot because he's just a better blocker than Brock Bowers. But he's also going to a team that has a true bona fide number one receiver that's going to gobble up 180 targets a season, and a pretty good number two receiver in Jacoby Myers. And he's also going to a franchise that likes to run the ball, right? Like they like to be balanced. And now you're also going to a team that has Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. I agree with you. Like, this is not the long-term solution at quarterback, but let's say it's a rookie next year. I don't necessarily feel great about a rookie quarterback maximizing Brock Bowers' dynasty value either. So you mentioned off the top, I had Brock Bowers as my tight end one in dynasty. I'm moving him down quite a bit, Kate. And this is really, really sad to me because I absolutely love the player. And I think he is going to still be an awesome NFL player. But from dynasty, I would just much rather have Sam Laporta and Dalton Kincaid. And after that, it gets a little tricky. But those two guys are so clearly ahead of Brock Bowers for me that it's upsetting.
All right, I'm going to name in order Dynasty ADP in the month of April. Sam Laporta, you mentioned at the 1. I think that's very fair. Trey McBride, tight end 2.
That's a
Brock
little
Bowers and
harder.
Trey
Just
McBride.
Yeah, it's a little harder because the Cardinals did just draft Marvin Harrison Jr., and I expect them to draft another receiver at some point in the NFL draft. I would probably lean Bowers.
Eileen Bowers there as well. I've already talked about my thoughts on Trey McBride here as one of the most overrated tight ends in Dynasty. I stand by that. How about Mark Andrews? 28 years old,
Bowers.
but
Give me the
okay.
age. Yep.
Kyle Pitts, who
Who's throwing
could
him the ball?
catching passes from Michael Penix Jr.
I'll take Bowers.
Dalton Kincaid, you mentioned. I'll
Yep.
take Kincaid. TJ Hawkinson.
Bowers.
Okay, I think you have him somewhere around tight end 4, tight end 5, which
It's just
doesn't seem like
frustrating.
a big drop. But when you were dropping him from tight end 1 down
Yes.
to tight end like 5, yeah, that's a pretty significant drop. Now, here's the thing. I do think that long term, this is a viable option for the Raiders, right? Like Devontae Adams is aging. We don't necessarily know how much longer he's going to be at his peak in terms of his career. If I cover up the tight end designation and I have this consideration that like the Raiders are kind of planning their quote unquote wide receiver room for the future, the pick feels a little bit better to me. And maybe I'm crazy. I'm not out on Brock Bowers. I do think he loses value, especially in his rookie season. Like I don't think we can expect a rookie breakout. The good thing is if Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew can get the ball into his hands, like dude's a freak after the catch. Like I'm
know
disappointed. But
I'm disappointed, but I'm kind of excited about this Raiders offense. And maybe Gardner Minshew / Aiden O'Connell will be the value here because there's just so many weapons to throw to now, Kate.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting move. And again, probably talking about like tight end 4, tight end 5 category, but like this is not a destination that I necessarily think like he's going to go to die. So
No, we'll see. I just think we're going to have to be more patient than we are expecting, right? Like I think a lot of us were hoping maybe the Colts, maybe the Rams, who were kind of rumored to wanting to get up for Brock Bowers, but this is going to be a spot now where it's probably not going to happen right away. And if it does, that's great, but look for it to be more in year 2, year 3, year 4, which we've become lately we've been spoiled with tight end success. We're used to these tight ends having to take a couple of years to get up to speed. Wouldn't be a surprise if that's the case for Brock Bowers. Okay, let's talk about the dynasty QBs because we knew Caleb Williams was going to the Bears. We knew that Jayden Daniels was probably going to go to the Commanders. But the rest of these quarterbacks are fascinating. Let's discuss their dynasty values next. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals who are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals that you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In any given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That is linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode of your favorite Locked On podcast is brought to you by the best meal kit service in the game, Home Chef. No more having to answer the dreaded question, what are we going to do for dinner tonight? Thanks to Home Chef and their chef-designed recipes that are delivered directly to my door, all prepackaged, pre-portioned. They even peel the garlic cloves for you. And each recipe, one of my favorites, Blackened Mahi Mahi, comes with a full page of easy-to-read instructions that include customization options and pictures producers to guide you along the way through the step-by-step process so you don't have to ask, is that what chard looks like? I cannot recommend Home Chef enough, especially right now, because for a limited time, Home Chef is giving Locked On listeners 18 free meals, free dessert for life, and of course, free shipping on your first box if you head to homechef.com/lockedon today. That's homechef.com/lockedon for 18 free meals and free dessert for life. Yes, you heard that right. Homechef.com/lockedon. Must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Are you having to turn down the volume because of all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or on the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Kate, let's run through quickly the 6 quarterbacks that were drafted inside the top 12 of the NFL draft, which is still bonkers to me. And I just want you to tell me if their value went up, down, or stayed the same. Let's start with Caleb Williams, who went at number 1.
Up, up, up,
Oh,
up,
yeah.
up. Rome Odunze at 9, like, my God, they are setting this kid up for success, and don't be surprised if Caleb Williams is a lock for the top 12, barring injury in year 1.
We did our Superflex rookie mock draft, I believe on Wednesday, correct? And Caleb Williams was the number 1 overall pick. That hasn't changed. I feel even more confident that he should be your number 1 pick in that draft. Just loaded with weapons, so obviously good fit there. Washington Commanders took Jaden Daniels at number 2. There were some rumors that they might take J.J. McCarthy. What are your thoughts on that one?
I think stays the same. Tremendous upside. I think throwing to Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, decent setup for a rookie quarterback. And if not, he's got his legs for some upside. I'm going to stay like neutral for that landing spot.
We talked about this offseason, how Dan Quinn, generally defensive-minded head coaches like to rein in their offense. Not the case with Dan Quinn. He likes it when their offense is playing at a fast pace. I think with Cliff Kingsbury running that offense now in Washington, I actually think this is a good landing spot for Jaden Daniels. And if they have a bunch of picks today. If they can get some offensive line help, maybe another receiver, maybe a tight end, we're going to be off and running. Now this is where it gets interesting. Drake May goes to the Patriots at number 3. What are your thoughts on that one?
Terrible. I love Drake May, the prospect. I think that the consensus of him falling in this draft was kind of silly, overthinking nonsense. But for the Patriots, great grab. But you're looking at this Patriots offense and you're wondering, who is he going to throw to? Like, Kendrick Bourne can really not be their top receiving option, right? It's Kendrick Bourne, Hunter Henry. They are going to have to do some major roster flipping here to set him up for success. I'm just hoping they don't throw him to the Wolves. Maybe they get Jacoby Brissett involved and
I wouldn't be surprised.
Have him sit behind him for a little bit, which I think would help.
Now, they own the 34th pick today, which is the second pick in the second round. I could see them drafting a receiver. I also think they're the team that's the most likely to go out and trade for a Brandon Ayuk or a Deebo Samuel. They've got infinite amount of cap space, and it seems like that would be the smart thing to do. Yeah, if you have to overpay for Brandon Ayuk, okay, I get it.
Sure.
But go get a bona fide number 1 option, and then everything else slots in, right? Like, I don't love Kendrick Bourne and Juju and Pop Douglas as your number 1 receivers. But if they're your second and third and fourth options, that's fine. If Hunter Henry is a complementary piece, that's fine as well. Go get a bona fide receiver, and I think we might be having a different discussion about Drake May. So those are the top 3 quarterbacks. The 4th quarterback to come off the board, which is surprising to everybody that follows the draft, is Michael Penix to the Atlanta
most
Falcons.
Shocking pick of the draft, undoubtedly, that I can remember in recent years.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've been covering the draft for 20 plus years now. It's easily the most surprising pick I've ever seen. You and I weren't super high on Michael Penix's dynasty value, but I got to believe this just tanks it even more, correct?
100%. So the Falcons are kind of in an interesting spot. They came out and kind of tried to justify this pick after the fact. They obviously signed Kirk Cousins to this monstrous deal in free agency. He's coming off a torn Achilles. So like you kind of get this contingency plan, but a contingency plan at pick number 8 is absolutely absurd, right? They said, well, you know what, if everything works out and he sits for 4 or 5 years, that's great for us because that means we're doing really, really well at quarterback. So, like, if that's even a thought in their minds, worst pick of all time. And with the financial
It doesn't
situation
make
with
any
Kirk
sense.
Cousins, it makes zero sense for me whatsoever. I don't think there's a realistic chance if Kirk Cousins is healthy that Penix is going to see the field in 3 years, which means what? He's going to be 27, 28
Yep.
before
I don't get it.
he steps onto the NFL field to make it a start for the franchise that drafted him. It makes no sense. I
Hate it. Hate it.
hate
I
it,
want
hate it.
one of the
Undraftable.
reasons. One of the reasons that we liked Penix is we thought he would be one of these guys that comes in right away and starts and gives you immediate fantasy value. If I'm having to wait on a 24-year-old quarterback to play, I'm just not interested at all. However, one of the quarterbacks that I'm very interested in now, Kate, is JJ McCarthy. And we actually talked about this over the last couple of weeks with Matt Williamson. We wanted to see where JJ McCarthy landed because he was the quarterback that had the biggest range. And with him going to the Vikings at pick 10, I'm not saying he's QB3 for me, but I think we're going to have a discussion about it.
I am saying it. I'll say it right
Okay.
now. JJ McCarthy is QB3 for me in this class. From a prospect standpoint, yeah, I'm going to take Drake May. If I'm building an NFL franchise, I'll take Drake May. But now that they have their landing spots secured, I mean, is there any question that JJ McCarthy is set up day one to come out and be immediately productive as a passer? Like, there's absolutely no question about that. They got Aaron Jones to support the run game, also a good receiver outlet option for JJ McCarthy. You have Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson. Like, there was no better situation for a rookie quarterback heading into this draft. I think McCarthy has, and I've said it before, like just kind of a sneaky level of athleticism that doesn't necessarily translate to the box score. But I think like I wouldn't be surprised if he posted, a couple hundred rushing yards and a few rushing touchdowns every season to boost the floor a little
I wouldn't
bit.
be surprised either. Nope.
I think Justin Jefferson, winner here. Jordan Addison, winner here. TJ
Yep.
Hawkinson, a winner here. Great fit all around.
The only thing I'll say, and this is very short term, so don't overreact too much, because the Vikings didn't have to trade a lot to go get him. Like, I think a lot of people were anticipating that they were going to have to give up pick 23 and a future first round pick. And I think that would have sped up the timeline a little bit on McCarthy. With them only having to go up from 11 to 10 to get him, I do wonder if there's a possibility that Sam Darnold starts the year and they kind of slow play this a little bit just because they
Sure.
can. Yeah, they
For
can.
posterity.
But I still really like McCarthy. This is a great fit for him. I think he's going to be wildly successful. Awesome fit. The last one we need to talk about is Bo Nix, who went to the Broncos at 12. Another very surprising pick, at least by the consensus board. Are you in on Bo Nix now?
I'm not. Another one of these franchises that has, a terrible situation in terms of receiving room. Obviously, you have Cortland Sutton. He's holding out. He's looking for a new deal. He might be traded. Marvin Mims, who's like a guy that we really, really love, a former second round pick. Sean Payton likes him, but year one, when he touched the ball, looked excellent. But in between that, like really didn't touch the ball that often, not very well proven. And Bo Nix, like I said, I thought he was more of this game manager type of mold. And I don't even necessarily know that I think the Broncos are setting him up with the appropriate weapons to manage a game. So probably out on Bo Nix, generally speaking.
I'm kind of in.
Okay, give me the case. Because who's he throwing to, Marcus?
Can I interest you in some Marvin Mims stock?
I mean, I love Marvin Mims, and we've been like banging the table for Marvin Mims. I don't know of 2 dynasty analysts that were as high on Marvin Mims last year as
Well,
we
we're gonna be
were.
right this year.
We're going to be right this year, but like Marvin Mims
Let's
does
see.
not profile as an X. They need an X. I don't know that Cortland Sutton is going to be there this season,
I
and I
wouldn't
don't.
trade if I'm Denver. There's no way I'm trading him now. Like, give me Marvin Mims and Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick, who's back, and at least let my rookie quarterback try to have some success. But well, we've got plenty of time to talk about Bo Nix this offseason. I want to be a little bit positive, Kate, to talk about the one player who I do think gained dynasty value on Thursday. We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I've been told that I'm a competitive person, and my competitive side is a huge fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you play on not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. But the best part is messing with my friends. I can charge them rent on my iconic properties, just like in classic Monopoly. But now I can also heist their vaults of riches for myself, and the leaderboard show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. But it's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends and people all around the world in time tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We've been discussing some losers from night one of the NFL draft. Let's be positive. Let's talk about a player who gained value in Dynasty. And Kate, listen, you know I've been a big fan of his all year long. I am so stoked that not only the Chiefs drafted Xavier Worthy, but they traded up to go get him, which signals that they really like this player. I cannot wait to see Xavier Worthy in Kansas City.
This is a great fit, I think, on both sides. Obviously, for Xavier Worthy, we know exactly why he's such a great fit in the offense. Good offense, great quarterback. Like there's no questions about why it's a great fit for Xavier Worthy. Why it's such a good fit for the Chiefs and why Patrick Mahomes, I think, is probably the biggest winner of all out of this is like we saw last year he posted a career low, like 17 and a half fantasy points per game, which was still good for a top 10 quarterback performance. And that was with a rookie Rashee Rice being targeted like 5 yards down the field, an aging Travis Kelce, and literally nothing else. Xavier Worthy, just his sheer presence on that football field, like you have to not just account for the quote unquote straight line speed. You have to account for his nuance as a route runner. Like there's you have to know where he is on the football field at all times. Then you have Marquise Brown, who same situation, might not be an every down volume possession receiver, but you have to account for him at all times on the football field. Like
Yes.
having these players plus Rashee Rice pending the legal situation, plus even an aging Travis Kelce, like this is looking like the, sort of value of Patrick Mahomes again. And I hope you bought the dip because there were moments where like folks, throughout the season were, is Patrick Mahomes really the dynasty QB 2 or 3, or is it Jalen Hurts? Or I hope you bought the dip is all I'm
So
saying.
I love this fit for a number of reasons. I think Xavier Worthy, people see the 4.21 speed and they assume, oh, that's a deep threat, which he is. I mean, he didn't have a lot of production on deep balls last year, thanks to his quarterback. But what his game really is within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. In a lot of ways, he is going to be used, I think, in a similar way that the Chiefs used Kadarius Toney and Mecole Hardman, but he's just a much better version of that. Like, okay, think about the final play of the Super Bowl. Who did the Chiefs draw up that play to? It was Mecole Hardman, right? Because he's so quick and fast that the defenders just can't get out to the flats to get him. I think those are going to be the type of routes that Xavier Worthy gets, where you're giving a little touch pass, you're giving him a screen, you're giving him a drag, and then occasionally you'll take a shot down the field. But I think you're going to see Hollywood Brown, at least this year, be the deep threat. You'll see Xavier Worthy be the at the line of scrimmage receiver. And then you'll see Rashee Rice, pending the suspension, be the guy that plays in the slot, catches the 7 to 8 yard passes, and makes plays after the catch. I just think this offense fits really well together. And I can see all of these guys being very fantasy relevant and very effective. I love this fit for Xavier Worthy. This is probably, it's not probably, this is my favorite pick of round 1.
I think that's very fair. And the good thing is I don't think Worthy's skill set is redundant with
No, it's not.
the other assets here within the offense, which, obviously in in an offense where you just want the ball in Patrick Mahomes' hands, like having this versatility and skill sets, like you said, I think the kind of twitchiness and the quickness, not necessarily the speed, but the quickness is what you love with Xavier Worthy, especially. And you look at kind of what they got out of McCole Hardman. I think what they were missing was a lot of refinement. And I think what McCole Hardman lacked in refinement is everything that Xavier Worthy has. Before we close out the show, though, Marcus, I do want to bring us back down to earth because we didn't address the elephant in the room just yet. Rome Odunze, wide receiver of the Chicago Bears. He was my wide receiver 2 in this class. How are you feeling about this move? Because I think people are pressing the panic button, and I'm not there yet. So I want your thoughts before I plant my flag in the sand.
I think it's a bad short-term fit with him because of Keenan Allen, because of DJ Moore, and you're playing with a rookie quarterback. But long-term, I think Rome Odunze is going to be the number 1 receiver for Caleb Williams. So I think as long as you're willing to be patient and you understand that it's probably going to take until year 3 or year 4 before he's the bona fide number 1 guy there, I think it's definitely a hit to a short-term value, but I'm still buying.
Yeah, I think we're in for a year 2 breakout. So maybe let that perception dip his value a little bit, and then I'm pouncing like a lion and on its prey. Like that's what I'm doing with Rome Odunze. Still a huge believer in the talent. So just wanted to put that out there because definitely the short-term value takes a big hit, but you're tied to quarterback, Caleb Williams. You have 32-year-old Keenan Allen, like who, we don't necessarily know the future of in Chicago's offense either.
I will also say if Caleb Williams ends up being as good as a lot of people suggested he could be, I think he could support 2 number 1 receivers. We've seen Joe Burrow do that before in Cincinnati. We even saw CJ Stroud this year with Nico Collins and Tank Dell support 2 number 1s. There's a little bit more complementary talent on this roster right now with DeAndre Swift, Khalil Herbert, Cole Kmet, Keenan Allen. They drafted Tyler Scott last year, so it might take a little bit, but I'm not moving down Rome Odunze that much because I still really, really want him in my Dynasty leagues. That is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dynasty Football your first listen every single day. Go check out the channel on YouTube. We post videos every single day over there. Go download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Go follow Kate on Twitter at Kate Majuk. I'm at Marcus_Mosher, and we will see you right back here on Monday.